Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to this session about intercultural communication or problems in intercultural communication. We have three very interesting presentations on our agenda, two in English and one in Esperanto. So let's start with the first one, and let me introduce the first speaker. Dr. Tamilla Mammadova is an assistant professor at AGA University in Azerbaijan. She holds a PhD from the University of Santiago de Compostela in Spain, and she published two interesting books recently. The title of the first one is Teaching Grammar to a Grammar-Free Generation, and the second monograph has the title Exploring English Language Teaching in Post-Soviet Era Countries. So intercultural communication issues and online teaching are among her research topics, and her presentation will lead us to discourse particles and the problems they might cause. So the floor is yours, Tamilla.
Thank you very much. Greetings from Azerbaijan, Baku. It's 4 p.m. local time. So before I start my presentation, I would like to express my gratitude to all those who was involved in organization of this amazing online conference. This is really important for us these days. So today I will be talking about intercultural communication breakdown as a result of discourse particles misuse. Well, communication itself problematic, and there is a number of linguistic nuances that makes communication problematic. Among them are intonation, tone of the speech, vocabulary selected, and many others, but also some extra linguistic features matter, and this can be the speaker's origin, background, and even mood that can make language even more complicated. So even more problematic is intercultural communication when, despite the linguistic features, some cultural features come into being. So today I would like to focus particularly on discourse particles, which frequently express speakers' emotions, both positive or negative, and which really vary from language to language. Here is my speech structure. I will present some general background, main focus, research question, method, results, conclusion, and references. Right. Being scholars, very often we come across the situations when simple or ordinary life events make us think on particular questions or a question that later turns into a research question. And such case came to my life some 6-7 years ago when I was living with my flatmates having different origin and background. We were all communicating in English, but the case is when we wanted to express our emotions, I just noticed that they are very natural in the sense that they are coming from the speaker's L1 rather than those, let's say, words that are peculiar to English language. For instance, an ordinary reaction on pain, which is, let's say, ouch, which is very typical for English language. It sounded in very different manner, like I, O, E, anything but not ouch. And I noticed that me, myself, when I was talking English, whenever I wanted to express any emotion, just words or sounds that I naturally use in my L1, they were coming out of my mouth, right? So a bit back to the theory. EFL has firmly established its role as the main language of communication for international businesses, education, trade, transport, and culture. And here is the reason, first of all, why I study intercultural communication in English language in particular. On the other hand, the speech act we intend to perform is not always received or delivered in the same way we expected to deliver or we expected to receive. And so the desired effect is always different. And it even happens among the speakers of the same language. So it's quite obvious that elf speakers having different lingua cultural background. It means that situation where English is used as a lingua franca, discourse participants need to adapt to unpredictable circumstances to achieve comprehension. So that is, if the conversation among speakers due to cultural nuances is difficult in one language, in the same language, it's even more complicated when we use one common language but having absolutely different background and cultural mores. Right? So while we try to adapt to verbal norms of the language, we often mistreat language at its cultural and emotional level, where the function of discourse particles ranges from the simple drawing of the addressee's attention to the speaker's mood or attitude up to the emphasis on the particular topic. However, studies show that in case with the EFL, discourse particles are practically absent from the courses. And my study, which I conducted recently in 2015, shows that most of the international textbooks, they simply omit teaching of discourse particles to EFL students. So among 20 textbooks, international textbooks, there were only one or two which really focused on some particular discourse particles. And of course, this is not enough to possess the ample use of, emotional vocabulary that the speaker should have. So in this study, I tried to investigate whether EFL speakers consider the use of discourse particles expressing emotions when speaking English. And for this, I had two major hypotheses. First of all, I assumed that speakers of L1, different from English, they will resort to the native discourse particles. And if this is not the case, probably the second hypothesis, if it's not exactly the same word that they use in their L1, probably it will be a kind of sound imitation that they use in their native languages. So the study was conducted in Switzerland while I was doing my postdoctoral research at Freiburg University. So I involved 40 speakers of 4 different languages. I had 10 French, 10 German, 10 Italian, and 10 Spanish speakers. Their level of English ranged between A2 and C1, and their age was between 19 and 40 years old. First of all, I used first research tool to collect my data. This was a test which consisted of 10 item questions, and later on, you will see later on the reason why, I had to involve the second research tool, which was a short dialogue translation, audio recorded, and with the focus of the use of discourse particles in some particular content. I will be talking about this a bit later on. Well, so based on Barrett, who suggests 2 qualities of emotions, this is valence and arousal, I focused on valence as its positive and negative state of emotions. And to restrict my study, to make it more focus-oriented, I focused specifically on negative emotions. Well, following Ekman's classification of emotions in 1992, I stopped on the emotions like anger, pain, disgust, frustration, and negative surprise. So here is shortly how I organize my data. In order to express anger, I used those discourse particles like hell and o. to show disgust, yuck and foo. Frustration was represented by damn, goddamn, goodness. Pain, of course, was represented by typical ouch, and surprise, negative surprise, was expressed by discourse particles boo and oh dear. And you can see that in total they are 10, because each of them was used in one item sentence created for the respondents. So here is an example from sample number 3. You can see the blank space, and then the context, like the spinach soup is disgusting, I won't eat it. Of course, we can see from the sentence that logically yuck will be the best option for this content. The speakers, the respondents, they were suggested 3 options. First option was based on the English correct answer, which I call target language correct. Second option was English wrong answer, which is target language wrong. And finally, the third answer was phonetic imitation of discourse particles used in French language, which is source language wrong. Now, I will explain why French language, because as I previously mentioned, I used 4 different language speakers, and I decided by focusing on French language, I wanted to see whether French speakers will go more likely will go for this French-like option or not, and this would show me whether L2 speakers, they are really influenced by the L1 language. So in the results section, I would like to refer to the source language option 4 first. As you may see, out of 10 item questions, the results are not unanimous, because in option number 1, in option 5 and 8, none of the speakers referred to the source language. And this was quite interesting finding, which can be justified by a number of following reasons. So what I found first. First of all, the study showed that to express emotions in English, L2 speakers, they frequently resort to, let's say, notional parts of speech. Let's have a look at sample number 1. Hell, ba, and min. I have left my cell phone at work. Now I have to drive 30 kilometers back. Most of the respondents, I can't say that all of them, but most of the respondents, they went for hell. And we know that hell is a typical noun in English language possessing negative meaning and negative emotional coloring, if we can say so. The same happens with sample number 5 and 10. Here we have damn, which is again typical negative word, and oh dear, which is exclamation of surprise or some negation. This is quite clear, I guess, when I say that the respondents, they refer to the notional part of speech. But let's have a look at number 2. Among answers, basically we have no notional word. It's just ow, ouch, and zoot. So first of all, I want to explain how zoot appeared in the option, among the options. Zoot was phonetic representation of French zut, which stands like a synonym for damn in English. And we tried to make a phonetic imitation of zoot, showing it like zoot with double O. But basically, though most of the speakers of English, I mean EFL learners of English, they are not familiar with the word zoot, still it has its meaning, like trendy, fashionable suit, like zoot suit. But again, I'm pretty sure that learners of English, they are not familiar with this meaning of the word. That's why if we have a look at sample number 2, we can see that out of these 3 words, zoot is the best option that might represent a notional part of speech, because as we may see, we know that oh no, normally it's not a notional part of speech. Ouch, also familiar for some speakers and not familiar for others. Zut stands more likely like a notional part of speech. So this is a first justification of some of the results. On the other hand, what else we can observe is the influence of the L1 on the use in English. Like I previously said, whether the respondents will be using those discourse particles that will imitate some phonetic representation in their own language. If we can see from sample number 4, 6, 7, 9, and 10, for instance, in number 4, oof is not only used in French, but also in Spanish and German to express both positive and negative emotions. And interestingly, that most of the speakers, they voted for oof as a correct answer, while we know that oof is not a correct answer for English context. The same can be said about ah. Also, it is used in Spanish language, like discourse particle of surprise. So in other words, this table, this samples show that most of the speakers, they opted for those versions which are more or less typical to the L1. Finally, another interesting finding is the difference between spoken and written language. Of course, we all know that spoken and written language differ a lot, but when I was designing those contexts in those 10 sentences, I tried to make the language closest to colloquial, closest to everyday informal speech, but yet some of the results showed that even if I tried to make it spoken, still the amount of time given to the respondents for thinking, it still makes them think on correct answer. And now you will see how it worked. I had some doubts about the word ouch, because the majority of the respondents, they, not the majority, I can say that 100% of the respondents, they selected ouch as a reaction on pain. From my practice, everyday life practice, and professional practice, I'm absolutely sure that L2 speakers practically never use ouch when they react on pain. And in order to prove this hypothesis, in order to prove this understanding, I decided to make a new data collection tool in order to find whether I'm right or wrong. And here how I came up with a short dialogue which consisted of 5-6 lines only, and each line focused on one particular discourse particle. Of course, I'm not going to show you all these discourse particles right now, because I want you to pay attention to ouch as a possible, discourse particle to consider. And here what I have. So, shit, you will never change. She attacks. Ouch, it hurts. The dialogue was given to 4 professional translators and was translated into German, Italian, French, and Spanish. And the same respondents who participated in the written text, they agreed to do oral translation, reading from their native language and simultaneously translating into English. And now please listen what happened, paying attention to those parts where ouch is supposed to be used. Just a second. Yes.
Fuck. You will never change. That's hurt.
Shit, you will never change. Ow, that hurts.
Shit, you will never change yourself. Ow, that hurts.
Fuck, you'll never change. Oh, it hurts.
You're never gonna change.
Ow, that hurts.
Shit, you will never change. Oh, that hurts.
You're never gonna change. Oh, that hurt.
Fuck, you'll never change. Oh, it hurts.
Shit, you will never change. Oh, that hurts.
Shit, you will never change. Oh, that hurts.
Shit, you will never change. She attacks. Hey, that hurts.
Shit, you'll never change. Wow, that's painful.
Okay, so as you may hear from this short audio, none of the speakers pronounced ouch. It was I, it was oh, even hey, but not ouch. So why did it happen? Because, as Biber et al. Say, spoken language takes place spontaneously in real time, online or on fly. So the reason why, so they didn't have enough time to think, and the first emotion that came out of their, let's say, mouth was something they use in their everyday language in mother tongue, right? So it made me consider on some limitations. First of all, the study didn't have a good number of respondents, and the number of respondents was relatively small. Second one, some of the discourse particles I used for the study, and I said that they are the source language from French, they overlapped with another language. For instance, it was with ouf, which is not only in French, but also Spanish and German, and which is not also in French but in Spanish. And finally, even if I try to come closer to the spoken informal language in the written mode, still the idea that the respondents had this time to consider, it made us have some results unexpected, like in the case with ouch. So what we can conclude from this? The majority of non-native English language speakers, when using emotions in English, give preference to notional parts of speech rather than words that lack lexical meaning. Some respondents still resort to their L1 to express emotions. Speakers' approach to spoken and written language, of course, varies, and this is due to the amount of time they had. And finally, the most important conclusion, even the most competent users of English, and I said most of the respondents, they possessed level C1, they simply don't know these discourse particles. Otherwise, I wouldn't get such a diverse variation of answers, and all speakers would give the correct answer. So if they didn't and they opted to different versions, it means that they simply don't know these discourse particles in English. Right, so my first and second hypothesis basically, yes, came true, but I have some new findings. So respondents resort to notional parts of speech, as I said, written and spoken language differs. And in some debatable cases, like with ouch, the correct answer was provided due to sufficient amount of time that the speakers possessed. What is the implication? Implication that there is still much to do in this direction. This is just the beginning of the study, and for future, I know for sure that no written tool will be available in order to collect the data. Otherwise, I might have results like with ouch, which needs oral tool to be checked and tested. Right. So here are the references used. And thank you very much for your attention and being here with us. Thank you so much. All right. If I'm not mistaken, we have some questions here. Let me just mention at the start of the sentence. Let me use a lot of the. Thank you very much for this question. I'm reading the first question, which says that, yes, you can see it on the screen. Thank you. Right. It really differs. I absolutely agree with you. The same happens with Azerbaijani language, because we also don't use it in the same way. Azerbaijani language is agglutinative language, and its structure absolutely differs from the structure of English language. And that's why this will be the issue to consider. But as I told you, I'm just at the beginning. First of all, I'm trying to understand whether not students, but whether speakers of English, they really understand that they are far from real use of discourse particles or not. Because, as I previously said, I already tested it in 2015 with the test books, and I absolutely it made me sure that textbooks simply omit the teaching of discourse particles. Now I'm trying to understand whether competent speakers are aware of them, and again the results say that not really. And what you say is really very, very interesting. Thank you very much. I think the question comes from Sonia. Thank you, Sonia. I will take it into account. This is a very, very interesting point. Thank you. So, question from Sabine. I think, does your study include the analysis in literature? Not yet. Not yet, because my major focus is English language teaching at the moment, and I prefer working with the real life cases, like with spoken language. Discourse particles in literature and soap operas, I think this is something a bit artificial, far from the real language. I mean, everyday speech. When I say real language, I mean everyday speech. So first of all, I'm going to test it in everyday speech, and then probably little by little I will move to what you suggest. Thank you very much for the question. Tone has been shown to be more important than article itself. Yes, but the question with tone, this is more likely to be the area of phonetics, and I don't study phonetics. What I study at the moment is a kind of pragmatics. It's more like pragmatics rather than phonetics. And of course, phoneticians, they study the tone, the pitch of the language, which, by the way, is very important as well in the study of intercultural communication, probably from phonetic perspective. This is also very interesting. Maybe some of my colleagues decide to study that. Thank you. This is really interesting. Read question out loud. Okay, thank you. It's from Jason Fan. I'm only copying. Okay, what's the last question? Azerbaijani language borrowed from English. I wouldn't say so. No, I wouldn't say that. In general, I wouldn't say that we can, of course, have a lot of borrowings from other languages, but I wouldn't say that discourse particles as representatives of emotion, they are coming from any other language, because it's so natural. It is so, native to our own language, that I wouldn't believe that most of the speakers would imitate any other language. Though, by the way, with the word ouch, some of the competent speakers now, they try to imitate. I already heard, yes, in my own language, people using ouch as borrowing from English. Maybe little by little, when people become aware of intercultural communication tricks like I was talking about today. But still, I think that these parts of the speech, they are very natural to native language, not being a boring. So this is again my point of view. I might change that the more I go into this topic, the more probably I will be changing my mind. But at this stage, I'm absolutely convinced in what I say. So this is, thank you.